Okay, welcome to another Liquid Bullet Productions. I've got a great guest for you today. All the crime followers and the ones that love the criminal connection stuff, you're going to love this story. Mr. Allan McCarthy, welcome.
Hi Lee, nice to be with you. It's great to be on.
How you doing? How you doing today, mate? You good?
Yeah, great. Just sitting in Glasgow. As I was saying to you just before the cameras ran there, I was just watching your latest one with Rebellious, getting into that. You know what I mean? Everybody's got another story about that. You know, that's going to run and run, isn't it?
Yeah, quite a few years now, that one. Well, I'm just going to read out some bullet points of your life, Allan. She banged up abroad, spent time in one of the worst prisons in Spain, rubbing shoulders with Pablo Escobar's brother, the Caravan Shell. You made a band in prison, and you even won a music award and got a record deal while you was in prison as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Allan, so before we start and get into all that good, juicy stuff, can I just roll you back to the beginning to sort of where you was born and where you grew up?
Yeah, I grew up in a little town called Barhead, which is about 7 miles from Glasgow. It's quite quiet, you know. It was certain parts of it where, you know, not nice. The bottom scheme in Barhead was this sort of, you know, dodgy area. But I used to go, my mum's family, my gran and that, they're from the Gorbals and that in Glasgow, Govan Hill. And that was like, I was born in the 60s. You know, we'd see gang fights and all that, you know, people with swords and that in the street. But that isn't like nowadays. These guys, if they see the woman with a pram, they would stop the fight, part the street, the women would go past, and then they'd all batter in again. But nobody innocent get hit. You know what I mean? There was no passer-bys. There was no, you know, innocent people. Those guys just tore into each other in the street. Or, you know, usual Glasgow on a Saturday night, you know, they're all getting hammered with drink. No drugs in those days or anything like that. Just Glasgow on a Saturday night. That was just the, you know, the unacceptable becomes acceptable. You're a kid, you get sent out to go in the middle of that, you know, to get the evening paper because they know they're going to no pick on a wee 5-year-old boy, you know, and you're running right through gangs and all that. And that's the way it was, you know what I mean? So what happened was at an early age, I was quite bright and I got sent to university very early. And I've always fiddled about with guitar and things like that. I've been involved in music. And I went to the university and became like the manager of the Students' Union, booking all the bands and that. And that wasn't paying great. You got a fiver the same, you know, whether I was in charge of it or whether I was on the door, you get a fiver. But what happened was there was a very famous gay nightclub in Glasgow called Bennett's, and they had some sort of problems. They had to shut down, refurbish or whatever, get shut down. So they asked if they could use our venue on a Saturday night, and we were never open on a Saturday. So it came along, and none of the people that normally wanted to go up the door with, oh, we're not wanting in a gay club and that. What they didn't know is all the top models and all the actresses and the TV people and all the other club owners, the other doormen would go there on a Saturday night. So at 17, I'm suddenly mixing with all the celebs. And like, I'm not your archetypal doorman. I'm 6 foot, right? I'm all right, you know what I mean? But I'm not 7 foot tall and growling and people reasonably polite. And I sort of kept my mouth shut and listened, you know what I mean, what you taught to do. And got to know who was who. And so from then I got asked, well, you seem to handle yourself quite well. We're opening this new club. Do you want to do the door? You know, like meet and greet and say who gets in because you know all the people. And that just evolved. I ended up working in the Mardi Gras in Glasgow, which was the top club in Glasgow. That was like 3 floors at the moving disco. All the footballers were in there. You know, I worked there for the day it opened, you know, and there's some stories about that, you know what I mean? That was chaos. And then what happened was, obviously, I was like getting more than the rest of the doormen because I was at the front and I knew who to let in and all that. And then I'd worked all loads of other clubs around Glasgow, Cotton Club, Warehouse, Savoy. But we decided that we were putting our life on the line for 25 quid or 50 quid in a staff taxi home and a staff drink. So we decided what we did at the Students' Union, we would do in real clubs. So before, when everybody was organising club nights in the 90s and the 2000s, we were doing that in 1980. At like 18, 19-year-olds, we got all the dolly birds to go out and sell the tickets for us, and we had our own club night. And that took off in Glasgow. We then took on the Electric Circus in Edinburgh, and we took on Fat Sam's in Dundee, which were the 3 prime clubs in the 3 biggest cities. We ran a night in each of them. We even ran buses to them, and that was mental. You've got people, it's more fun going on the bus through to Edinburgh. We had people that would get the train through from Edinburgh to Glasgow to get on the bus to go back to Edinburgh because it's only a 40-minute drive, but it used to take 2 hours because people would be stopping at the service station for more carryouts or more drugs, or we'd be picking people up. People would be late, and then coming back, it was even worse. That was mental. You need doormen on the bus, you know what I mean? In slagging, you name it. And it all came to us, I think. Now, it's gossip, but we get told that the VAT man was looking for us because we hadn't paid any taxes. You know, you're a kid, you know, I was 21, I was 21. We've been doing it for a few years. Or the tax man's coming for you. Whether it happened or not, I don't know. But I just went over to Spain because all the people that came in were talking about, this was the Costa del Crime then. And all the Glaswegian players were like, talking about their villa in Spain and going golfing in sun. And when you're standing outside the freezing club in Glasgow in the pissing rain, and somebody's talking about 40 degrees in the sun and beach parties and all that, that seems very, very attractive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't go over there saying I'm going to become a drugs dealer or something like that. That wasn't the plan. I went over there and I had plenty of money and just bummed about. You know what I mean? Just different bars every night. You know, and obviously no matter how much money, it's no sustainable. You know what I mean? So I started helping people out. We chipped in and bought a bar. We ran beach parties, things like that. And it's a gradual progression. You know, somebody that you know for Glasgow will say, look, we can't hire a car because, you know, it's going to get used for something. Don't ask any questions, but we can't officially hire a car. All right, okay. My mate's got a motor, he can borrow his. Or they're looking for a villa off grid that somebody can stay in because they're on the run or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or can you change up money? We've got all this money in sterling that we need to change into pesetas, you know what I mean, or whatever. And it's just a gradual progression, you know what I mean? It's like when you start as a teenager, I used to go to parties. I'd be playing in bands when I was 13 in the clubs and that, and coming home at 3 o'clock in the morning and all that. And I'd be sitting in parties and I'm telling my mates at school that, these guys were smoking dope there. And they're like, what? No, I mean, somebody had a joint and that was a big thing. And then you go into parties when you're up in the clubs and people are doing, you know, powder. You know what I mean? Then you go to other parties and it's the guy that's got a kilo on the table. And it's just a gradual sort of thing. You don't go for seeing somebody smoking a joint and you're, wow, he's a junkie. You're sitting there and the guy's got a ton of it sitting in his back garden. You know what I mean? It's not you suddenly elect to decide to do that. It's just a gradual thing. And obviously, this was the early and mid-80s when it was the Costa del Crime. All the people you hear them talking about, you know, were there. You know what I mean? All the famous gangsters were there until they brought in the extradition later on. But what happened is I was in the wrong place at the wrong time at one of the times, and I got a car full of hash. And that was that. I just found myself, I think I was 24, and I'd got a 6.5 year sentence and a 65 million fine, which is a bit heavy, you know what I mean, at that age.
Yeah.
And that was me found myself in a Spanish prison.
Alan, can I just ask you, how did you actually get caught with that?
What happened was, in those days, Spain weren't even looking for drugs. What happened was the Basque separatist movement, ETA, like the Basques were wanting apart from Spain. So they would have roadblocks and spot checks, you know, everywhere. But they were looking for explosives. And the thing was, we're driving up and they just sort of flag every third car into, you're going and you turn a corner and you go into the thing. And the guy that was driving, he suddenly had a panic attack. And he's, get the stuff out. So by the time we actually got to the roadblock, there was nothing in the car. And then this lorry driver goes past, and I couldn't speak a word of Spanish, but my mate's face, he did. He just went, oh no. The lorry drivers grassed us up, saying, oh, they're throwing stuff out the car, as they were turning the corner, and you never seen them. But, we did do it. But my resentment and my chip in my shoulder the whole time was the cops never seen us doing it. And they were that busy getting their photographs taken. This is a Friday afternoon. Most of the way we get caught is in the middle of nowhere. They've got every cop in the area is round there. There's hundreds of police. There's vans. They've all got machine guns and that, and they're all getting their photographs taken. But what they forgot was they let the lorry driver go away, so they've not got a witness. Because they say they seen us chucking it out. And then when it eventually went to trial, one of the cops had to stand up in the court and say he'd seen us doing it. And fair play, there was two cops, an old one and a young one, and this young one is lying through his teeth, and I seen them doing it. It was impossible because it was round a blind bend. You couldn't have seen it. And the other guy, as I'm going away, getting shackled and going away, he's went, look, I know you did it. I spoke Spanish by then. And he's went, look, I know you did it. And I went, aye. He said, but he's a wanker, for doing it. He shouldn't have done that. It's not the right way to do it. And I'm like, I know. And that was part of my problem. I kept appealing. So in Spain, you get nothing off your time. If you get 10 years and you appeal right up to the end, you do the whole 10 years. You don't get anything off. Whereas if you appealed, if you accepted your sentence day one, you get out in 5 if you had a job. But I was that young and dumb, I wouldn't do any jobs, so I wasn't earning any time. And 3 years into the sentence, before the music came up, I had actually accrued more time than I had when I went in, because I was getting sanctions and time added on. I was getting, severe penalties put against me, like the worst things you can get without going back to court. And they weren't for silly things. I'm not going to glamorise it and make it that I'm something that I'm not. But these weren't for, these weren't for making a mess in the kitchen or something like that, no doing the dishes. They were pretty heavy. And basically, I was going nowhere fast. And what happened was, there was somebody upstairs looking after me or whatever, because a guy came in, and he'd come in as part of this prison reform thing to try and teach the Spaniards English. And what we didn't know was this guy spent half his life in the States, but he was a musician. And he had, in the local town, he had like a university, like a college of music and a college of English. So he's trying to get these Spaniards to go in and do English classes. Half of them couldn't read and write in Spanish. So they weren't interested. It was just a no-goer. And as an enticement, what he said was, I play guitar, I'll teach you to play guitar. So everybody suddenly was wanting to go in. And I wouldn't even sign up for that. And my mate said, you can get a shot at guitar. And reluctantly I went in. And it was the first thing in about 3 years that I had actually done that was anything positive. I wouldn't even stand in a queue, I wouldn't speak to them in English. I wouldn't do anything, just causing problem for myself, young and dumb. And the upshot was, this guy, he was world famous, session musician. He's done, he's played in jazz festivals, went to New Orleans and that. He's seen it. He's seen me and he went, hey, you're actually all right. And I went, oh, thanks. And he's heard that there's a guy in the kitchen who could also play guitar. But the guy in the kitchen, he's getting a day off for every day he's working. He's like, I'm not giving up my kitchen job, to go and play guitar. You're joking. But they eventually got it so he would come down for an hour a day or whatever. And we got a bit of publicity. And this is all documented. I can't make this up. It's just how ludicrous it was. We had a couple of Spanish guitars, and we got a budget off the local council to get us a couple of electric guitars, drums, and a bass. There was some sort of charity giving, musicians union or something, whatever, giving money. So they've decided we're going to play a concert. So we practiced for a couple of hours with the acoustic guitars. We've got to do 3 songs. And it's in the women's prison because it's an open day and they can bring their families in and all that. No, it's going to be a nice thing. So we've decided, nobody wanted to sing. So we've done a song by Santana, Europa, which you get no singing in it. And we can play that for ages. You can just do the guitar solo. We decided to keep the kids happy. We'd do La Bamba, which the Spanish guy would sing. But La Bamba is just the same as Twist and Shout. So I'd sing Twist and Shout in English and he'd sing La Bamba. But then was the catch. They wanted us, for the council, to show that we were being rehabilitated. I had to write a song. So we've had to do a song. Now, we never got the drums until 5 minutes before we're going to play. And like, we've obviously asked about, can MD play the drums? Now, my best mate that was in there, he was the nephew of the head of the French Mafia. His uncle is the guy that's in the French Connection film. And he got caught, he was like in the flash car, the Lamborghini or something like that, driving up the road. And the two other boys that got caught with him, they've got articulated lorries full of hash. You know, we're talking thousands of tons, you know what I mean? So one of his drivers, Michel, has said he can play drums because he's heard they're going to the women's prison. Oh, aye, all right. You know. We didn't mind who was coming with us. It was like Schindler's List. If we could get you out, you know, you'd be the tambourinist and all that, no, just to help everybody out. We arrived at the women's prison and we're sitting down and we're about to play. And Michelle's like, Bob, and he can't, he hasn't a clue about playing the drums. He's not got a clue. And we're like, what the hell's going on? And he's like, I just wanted to see the woman. We're like, pow. So I can't remember whether it was one of the social workers or one of the guards could play a wee bit, so they stepped in. But at this point, video cameras had just come out. You know, the wee Amstrad cameras you used to get. Yeah. And everybody had them. So for publicity, they'd film the sports events, they'd film everything. So it wasn't unusual to see somebody with a camera. But what we found out later on that day was this was going live out on Spanish TV on a programme called Chickalandia, which is the equivalent of the Ant and Deck programme. Remember, that used to be on the Saturday morning. So we've got to like 20 million kids, like live. We've never played before, right? And by the time it's got to, this was at lunchtime, on the tea time news, we've, instead of we're maybe doing this in the London prison or something like that. So we're on the South of England news at tea time. By 10 o'clock news, we're on ITN News England. And by the following lunchtime, we're on the UK news, right? The following Saturday, it's only 6 days later, this has generated so much publicity. We've got two radio companies in the open prison. We've went out and played for them because the authorities thought they got these things, letters or faxes back in the day. We want to come along and record this. And they thought it was a wind-up. So they've only invited two companies instead of one. So there's two separate radio companies claiming exclusive rights to, you know, playing us live. And we had to do two songs I wrote live. You know what I mean? It's our second ever concert. We're doing two songs live in national radio. And then the following Sunday, so it's a fortnight after our first concert, we then did 3 songs live on the Top 40 show. Now, to this day, I don't know how that worked. You know, you've got Tony Blackburn or whoever, and number 20 here is, you know, the Beatles, number 100, the Bee Gees. And now we're going over to Mercia Prison for 15 minutes to hear this bunch of agents who can hardly play doing 3 songs, right? And that's just what happened.
So they actually filmed you in the prison. They didn't like let you out to go to a recording studio or anything. Or
no, what happened then was they entered us into the competition because everybody was going, "Oh, this is so a good story." And what happened then was a guy called Pepe Moreno, who was a local producer. He was invited to come in because we had to record a song. So what we did was we're in this prison cinema. And we've not got 2 amplifiers that match, or we've got a shitty drum kit, and we're lucky to have the strings on the guitars. And he's recorded us, they said, you've got to write a song for this competition. And we played like 9 songs, and he just recorded us live. And one of the songs out that, Runaway, got picked. And the crazy thing is that 30 years later, that song, untouched, I wrote it the day before, it was the first time we played it, got turned into a video by a BAFTA award-winning director, Ian Henderson. He liked the song. He stays local to me, and he went, I'd love to put a video of that. So there's a wee video on YouTube of me walking around the town where I was born with a guitar, feeling like a complete idiot because it's 6 o'clock at night, and I'm walking around with a guitar with a leather jacket on and the shades trying to look cool. And people are coming out for their shopping and going to the pub going, what's he doing? You know what I mean? So I felt like a complete tosser. And what happened was with that, we kept winning the heats and all at the end of the song, and we didn't have to go out and play. They just kept the song, just kept getting, you know, extenuating circumstances. You know, it was recorded live because it was a battle band, so they knew we could play live. And then the upshot was we won a recording contract, so they had to let us out. But in between times, I try to keep this short because it's very complicated. In between times, to make things easy, I wasn't convicted. So they promised me that if I accepted my sentence, I would immediately get 3rd grade in open prison. So this was in the Christmas. It came back down. The side that wasn't for us had knocked it back. So I went on strike. So I didn't do anything for 2 months, and it's getting to February. And we're meant to go out. It's all booked into the recording studio. It's all over the newspapers, on the telly. We're going out. And I'm going, I'm not playing. That you've got to play. No, I don't. Wait a minute. I get condemned for this sentence. You're not doing for me. You told me I get the open prison. You're not getting out. And they ended up, and I can say this because I have got the paper up to prove it. They've suddenly taken 2 years off my sentence. And when I'm not even been sentenced, when I'm in the remand or whatever you call it here, they're giving me 2 years off, as though I've been working for 2 years. They've taken the 2 grave sanctions I've got, which are serious things. They've just dissolved them. They've just had some judge somewhere to sign a form. They're like, I sign that. And we went out to the recording studio. Now, what I didn't realise until recently, I met all the old guys that were working with us a year ago at my place in Spain. And I always thought it was us and them. They were just, even though they were social workers, they were guards, just they didn't wear uniforms, you know what I mean? I didn't realise that these guys put themselves at quite considerable risk, not just to their careers, but actually physically as well, because they were having our backs. This engineer guy, Pepe Moreno, he got offered us a huge amount of money. Instead of us going to the recording studio, he would physically bring his recording studio into the prison and set it up, and they would pay whatever it cost. And he said no, because he thought we should be given a break. And then when the money didn't work, and I never knew this, they actually threatened them. Like the council would come up and doing inspections, just to annoy him. Your plumbing doesn't work, your hangme doesn't up to standards. Police coming round doing noise at things, and they really gave him hell. And he stood by his guns. So we've got out to do the recording thing. And again, I only found out this last year, and it was the guards telling me it. We're doing it, and nobody thought to tell me at the time. The wee bass player who was Spain's top, jewel robber and bank robber, he's got thousands of years waiting for him. He's never getting out. He's got all his mates sitting outside in a car with shooters to break him out.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah. I didn't know anything about this. I think they must have thought it put me off my singing. Now, I couldn't have told you what it looked like arriving there, but when I was on the radio and I met the DJs that used to support us and the journalists and all the guards, they were telling us what it was like, because I was in an armoured car. I don't know what was happening. There was apparently 5 armoured cars, police outriders, then police cars, police vans, then you've got all the prison staff following us just for a nosy. You've got friends of the prison staff, friends of the bands, then you've got all the press and reporters. There's hundreds and hundreds of people all outside this recording studio. And me, Tito, he's got a message out, somehow saying to the guys, no, date tomorrow, I'm having a laugh here. This is magic crack, you know what I mean? And so they didn't break him out. And what happened then was the story got ridiculous. We were on everything. And even the song that we recorded in the studio, Stormy Waters, then got put on the Out Now album of that year, A Year of Rock and Mercy, I think. Not only were we on the album, we're song 1, side 1. And it's back in the days when albums were cassettes. So DJs are lazy. They're not going to go to track 5 and set it all up, you know what I mean? I'm not saying they were the best song. It was all right. But it's easier just to play the first song. So ours was content. And plus, the headlines everywhere were Jailhouse Rock, Rock de la Carcel, the Bad Boys of Rock, you know what I mean? And all this headlines. And but it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And obviously for everything, because I was causing chaos, because I'm thinking I'm getting my own back in the guards by, they're telling me I'm going on the radio and I'm holding them to ransom. I'm not going out unless I have a shower. You can't have a shower. You're going out to the radio at 9 o'clock. We don't turn on the hot water till 12 o'clock. All right, I'll go out at 12 o'clock. And they're like, no, you can't do that. I can. But I'm thinking of being this Dallas guy, like Paul Newman and Cool Hand Luke or something. Nobody knew about it. But the guards the director had been phoning saying, where's McCarthy? He's not come. Oh, he's not coming out because he's wanting a shower. The director's yelling at the guards, well, give him an effing shower. So they're losing face. They're not forgetting that. So I go out and play whatever I'm doing, do the radio interview. And then when I come back in, they then explain how funny they thought I was. You know what I mean? I'm black and blue, staggering back to the thing, and I'm thinking I'm winning. You know what I mean?
I want you getting beaten up for it, was you?
Oh, aye. The worst one I ever got was, now, this is so crazy, I wouldn't even tell my friends this, you know, because they didn't believe I played in a band, and this is all heavy duty boys back here in the UK. And I told them I played in the band, nobody believed me, so I stopped telling them stories. But then when it came out in the Spanish press, like 2 years ago, they got the court transcripts and all that to prove this. When I get sentenced, it was 6.5 years. Now, the option was I either paid a 65 million fine or I get an extra 6 months. So,
65 million.
Yeah. So there's no chance of that getting paid, like, you know what I mean? So I've turned around to the judge and I speak fluent Spanish, you know, and my lawyer's like, why are you standing up? I've said, with all due respect, Your Honour, I can't afford the 65 million fine. However, instead of doing 6 months, I'm quite prepared to do a year, and you give me 65 million. And the whole court is falling about laughing, and the judge is going purple. Now, I thought I was quite, you know, like, what a wido I am. I get taken down to the holding cells, and I get battered back and blue, right? I then get the armoured car back to the prison, battered senseless in that. Then every time I passed a gate, they explained how they thought I was a comedian as well, you know what I mean? And the thing was, I never learned for that, you know what I mean? I'd just be up the next day and think of my wido again, you know, like, no. That's what I would try to say to the kids today. That's not the way to do it. You know, if you get caught and you're going to be there for 5 or 10 years, go and study or something, become a plumber, become an electrician, do a degree, and get out the quickest possible. Because you're only hurting yourself. You know, the only person that was doing more time was me. Those guards were going home at 5 o'clock or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm the one that's, you know, doing the full sentence and then some for all the extras. So it's not, you think you're a smart ass, but you're just hurting yourself, you know what I mean? And that's why, like, I'm going back to play the Spanish prison later on in the year, and I'm going to do some talked about, it's not finalised, but do some stuff with kids and all that, because my life was, it's not dramatising, I'm not being a diva saying my life was saved by music. Well, it was, I mean, I could still have been in that jail now. And at that time, you know, if you got through a day, you were doing well. You know what I mean? So anything could have happened. You know what I mean? I was stabbed and all that, and then there a couple of times, you know, and all different things. So there's plenty of times I could have lost my life. And the music took me then out of that. You know what I mean? And whether it's somebody that's sitting in, you know, Strange Ways or Barlinnie or that, you know, and they think, oh, I'm not doing this. They're a bunch of tossers, you know, I'm not doing. But if they get into painting or writing or music or some creative, just to get out of their own heads, they're not conforming, they're not grassing their mates up, you know what I mean? You're not becoming, you're actually being a bit stronger by getting, you know, you're using the system against them, if you want to look at it that way. You know, help yourself, you're not helping the jail.
Yeah. Alan, can I just ask you, so when you first got put into prison, obviously it's bad enough in a UK prison, but Spanish ones are probably 100 times worse than UK. But what was going through your mind when you first went into the prison and realised you was banged up in there?
Right. Well, when I first got taken into prison, I didn't actually go straight to the prison. Now, we've tried to piece this together last year because obviously a lot of the stuff came out in the public, they wanting timelines into what happened in dates and all that. Now, I met up with a lot of the old guards and social workers and that, and a lot of them still are in the prison system. But the problem is, in those days, it was paper records, and a lot of the records, because of the things that were going on, they hide them. Now, I know when I get released in St. Patrick's Day in 1992, but we're not quite sure when I actually got convicted, because when I went to trial, we've got, you know, but the actual date when I got caught. But we know from the guy that was with us when he got, but there's a certain 18-day period where I don't exist, right? And what had happened was the guy that was driving the car, he was like a British citizen, but he had like he was a Spanish resident. He had a girlfriend who was a Spanish lawyer and all that. And he's obviously a bit older as well. So they've taken him straight to the prison. Whereas I get kept in this sort of police jail. kind of thing, in like a little old town in the middle of nowhere, one of these castles and all that, you know what I mean? It's an old Spanish town. So the prison, the jail cell was like a dungeon, right? It's 30 foot wide. It's got the gates on the front, right? And the rest of it's just out of stone. No, it's underground. It's just carved out hundreds of years before. My only light is 30 foot up. And it's like a grate in the pavement, you know, like a storm grate where the water comes in. The place is damp. It's freezing. There's like a damp straw thing on the floor that's been there for hundreds of years. It's manky. It's covered in shite. You know, sorry for the language. And there's a rough horsehair blanket. Now, this is when it doesn't get very glamorous. The day before, I'd been in a 5-star hotel in Marbella and all that, you know, in the luxury. I'm waking up lying in this. You know, I'm only in the early 20s, right? The floor is like cobblestones, but over the years they're broken. So every time you move, there's dust coming up and all that. I'm getting fed. I can see the guard dogs outside, right? They're bringing the porridge or gruel or whatever you want to call it in, just out the dog bowl, a silver bowl, the dog food. You know, I'm getting that. And the guards are every now and then are pissing in the water in front of us, you know, just to show us. And because I was young, they must have thought I would give him a doing or a slap and, you know, he'll come clean and, you know, grass people up or what, but you know what I mean? And I was just getting battered left, right and centre. And you know what I mean? You just get numb to it, you know what I mean? I was just waking up, getting battered and going unconscious or whatever. And I couldn't speak any Spanish. I didn't know what's going on. Now, I never seen anybody for the consulate till about 3 months after that. You know what I mean? There wasn't any like you see in the pictures, the guy for the British embassy comes down and you're all right and all that. Nonsense. I seen a guy about 3 months later who couldn't speak any English. And he brought me along pens and then he said he couldn't take pens in to write my parents. And do you want anybody to know? And I'm like, oh, kids, that's the best you can do. Beat it. And I never heard for the consulate the whole time until after I got back to the UK. And they told me I was deported 6 months after I'd arrived in the UK. So that's the British consulate for you. Absolutely nothing. No good at all. So what had happened was the whole time I was there, not only getting physically beaten, they're emotionally hanging you, because you don't need to speak a language to know when they're threatening you or telling you what's going to happen, and they're going to prison and telling you you're going to, you know, somebody's going to make you their girlfriend and all that, you know what I mean? That's what they're telling you, and all I could say was F off, you know what I mean? That's so when I've eventually arrived in the big prison, you know, people get warnings when you're coming, you know, oh, there's another guy who's in the paper, somebody's been pulled for drugs. So they know that you'll be coming, you know what I mean, because they've read it in the papers or somebody's told them at a visit, you know. So what happened is a guy that become a really good friend. He's like French mafia. He's got this big Moroccan guy who's his like mate. They're into the bodybuilding and martial arts and all that. And this big guy, hi, he's come over to give me a coffee and a packet of fags to, hello, how you doing? Now, I'm not hyped up that I've been told I'm going to get battered and they're going to try and shag me or whatever. I've just seen this monster coming up. Now, this guy is about 7 foot. He's about that wide. And he's holding a coffee and that. I've just seen this face. Now, I look like something out of Braveheart. 18 days not shaving. I didn't have a beard like you. I had it out there. My eyes, I hadn't seen daylight, were like a lunatic. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, and I've just punched this guy. I just seen a face and I've just lamped him. Now, in a fair fight, this guy didn't have his hand full. This guy would have eaten me for breakfast. Right? There's no but ifs, buts, or maybes. He would have killed me. But his bosses told him to go over and give me a coffee, so he can't hit me back. You know what I mean? So I was absolutely lucky. But I've given him, you know, I could give a guy, you know, he's got this massive big eye out here, and it used to be hilarious. Like years later, we'd be sitting. And they see the three of us, and Joel, the French guy, was big. He was 6'2", and he used to do a lot. This guy came in about 12 stone and went out 20 stone without anabolic steroids or anything. He just was in the gym all day, every day. You know what I mean? And the big Moroccan, and they see me, and they'd see this Moroccan with this big scar and all that. And who did that? And he pointed to me, and they go, oh, my God, he must be really bad if he can do that to you. But what happened was there's in the jails, they see how far they can get. Now, that was lucky for me that happened because people then, they'll go and pick on somebody else. You know what I mean? Because, well, I'm not bothering with him. He's a lunatic. We'll go and find somebody weaker. And there's a lot of gypsies there. Now, these guys are not travellers or gypsies. You know, the good ones over here, like proper families, not, they've got their morals and their standards. Not. These people call themselves gypsies, but they're not. They're just lowlifes who go around in packs. They can't fight on their own. But if you get half a dozen of them, they'll pick on some wee guy that's on his own and steal their money or get them to do things, you know, they'll rape them or whatever. And then with this guy a couple of times is like testing. I didn't realise, you know, when I'm in the queue for a coffee, he's trying to butt in, I'm like, hey, out, you know what I mean? Can't he speak Spanish, but he gets the drift, you know, I'm no. And just before you go up, you've got you're on the patio outside like most of the day, but you go up for a siesta for 2 hours after your lunch. So you get a coffee, and I'm waiting for my coffee, and I just felt I was getting punched. Now, my two mates have seen this, and they've come running over and started sorting it out. And all I thought was get punched, but the guards are out, and there's a big fracas, and everything's going on. So I didn't speak any Spanish at that point. And I'm up to the cell. And the next thing I know is the little Spanish guy that's in with me, he's battering on the doors, going absolutely crazy. He thought I was going to die, and he's getting the blame for it. Because unknown to me, I'd been stabbed, but it wasn't like a knife or a blade that we would use, and well, other people would use. I've never used a blade. It's like a kebab skewer. We call it a pinchel, so it's a long, like a spike. Now, if that's not bad enough, it went straight in my side. I've still got the scar, and it obviously never hit any vital because I just thought I was punched. But what they do to make sure it gets you, if you didn't get one, they'll get the other. There's not many rats in that about. You know, four-legged ones and two-legged ones. They dip the skewer in rat shit and then human shit. So that if they don't get you, the bubonic plague of that will get you. You know what I mean? So I've got that in me, and that's at like 2 o'clock. By the time they come to take me down at 5 o'clock, you know, you go down for your dinner then. I don't know whether it's New York or New Year. I'm hallucinating. I don't even remember it. I was 72 days in the infirmary on like antibiotics and death's door and all that. All while I'm chained up, you know, either side with manacles, you know what I mean? They're like, where am I going? What am I going to do? But in between times, the French guy and the Moroccan guy, they've sorted these other guys out, you know what I mean? They got well seen to. But the upshot was this is Spanish thing, because I wouldn't say who did it. I'm getting like, you know, they're out for it, you know, for no telling who did it. You know, they're blaming me. You know, it's like, you know, that's the way it worked. And that was just like one of the incidents, you know what I mean? But that's something that happened to me. You know, that was right at the start. And these things were happening all the time because the guards just put you out at 9 o'clock in the morning. You're out there till 2 o'clock. You go up to the room at 5 o'clock. You're back down at, you get out again at 5 o'clock. You're back down till 9. And you're just free. You're just in a yard. There's nothing there. It's just open. It's bloody cold in the winter in mostly in Spain, where I was at the start. And it's bloody warm in the winter, bloody warm in the summer. And there's no cover, no shelter, no nothing. You're just out there. The idea is that you don't want to be out there, so you go and get a job. You work in a garage or a workshop or something like that and get some time off. But if you're like an idiot like me that didn't want to work, you're just out there walking about. Because I remember at the start, I walked in and the French guy, we can't speak. I spoke a little bit of French at school, and the Moroccan spoke a bit of English, and he spoke French. And they couldn't string a sentence between us, but you know what I mean? Friend, amigo, and all that, ami, and there was, just, you know what I mean? And I'm walking up and down with them. I thought I was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, because you just walk up and down, right? And I'm like, no, this is mad. But then you get to realise that once you start speaking the language, nobody can listen into your conversation. You know, you're keeping fit while you're walking. But Joel always did this thing about proving himself, because he's like the top guy. We used to walk crossways. Everybody else walks that way. We would walk that way. Just to annoy people, because they would have to, let you past. It was just him stating that he was the top guy. You know what I mean? He would walk that way. And when they managed to get, we used to get like a basketball or football every now and then somebody would kick it over the wall and that was it, game over. What he used to do when the kids were playing basketball, or the guys, he would sit right behind the basketball net put the fear of God up them. It spoiled their game because they were too scared in case they missed, the square. And it hit him, that would be hell to pay. So he'd do that. It was just sort of subtly, well, maybe not subtly, Satan, like, I'm the guy, everybody that came in knew he ran the place, you know what I mean?
Alan, you also sort of rubbed shoulders with a few names in that prison, Pablo Escobar's brother and stuff.
Yeah, that was later on when I got moved to the bad prison in Madrid.
Right, okay.
Over. That was the last year or so of my sentence when the music thing had passed, and to get back, they decided to mess us up. They sent us up there. Now, I'll send you the link to it. You can see it. It's El País. It's the Spanish national, like the Observer or the Sunday Times. It's the proper, the broadsheet. And they brought out an article about Carabanchel because the history of it, if anybody doesn't know, it was built in the 30s by Franco for the political prisoners, and then it just got worse. And in the 80s, Spain had just sort of became a democracy, the generals, and the first prime minister actually got done for corruption because he was flying Escobar and the Medellin cartel guys about in the equivalent of Air Force One. So a couple of the top guys, I think it was the Guzman brothers and Escobar's brother at different points, were in Carabanchel because that was maximum security. It was the worst of the worst. And what happened was in there, and if anybody watches Narcos, it's the background to Narcos because there was no cocaine in Europe. Why would Colombia spend money to send it, across all that water when they can put it into Florida? You know what I mean? Didn't make sense. Yeah. But what happened was in Carabanchel, they met up with Galicians. Galicia is like the north of Spain. They've been pirates for centuries. You know what I mean? They were doing the slave trade, and then whatever came in next, then they'd be running booze and guns to the States or whatever. They've always been, and they've always had wanted to be apart from Spain. So they would have run the drugs in for free, you know what I mean, just to annoy the Spaniards. But obviously business is business. So that's where they met up. And that's actually the opening scenes of like Narcos, and that take place in Carabanchel prison. There's also another one, and I think it's on Netflix, called Farina, which is just basically the Spanish version of Narcos, the same story, but done in Spanish, and it's there with English subtitles, I've so been told. But that was like the crazy times, you know what I mean? People would get threatened, you'd have guys in, the Alicante or Malaga, Barcelona, serious guys, and they'd get threatened, like, if you any of us were going to send you to Carabanchel, and these guys would be like, no, please, they'd be crying and all that to get sent there, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't even Alcatraz, Alcatraz had rules and responsibilities. Carabanchel, it was crazy. There were people dying there on a daily basis. It was like, I think it was 3 floors up. And this is not something I'm proud of. I've had to, like, rehumanize myself. I wouldn't have said I was ever a bad or an evil person, but you lose feelings, things that you would have found ridiculous. You just get immune to it. You know what I mean? You see somebody dying, years ago you go over and help them, but somebody that knows a wee bit better than you is like, Lee, don't do that. He wouldn't help you, and you'll just get yourself into bother. Just leave it be. And then it happens again, and you go, all right, well, they know better than me. Just leave them. Or somebody comes flying off a balcony, right? And you're playing chess, right? And the body goes like, Jesus Christ, knocked the board. And you're like carrying on as though nothing has happened. And maybe 5-10 minutes later, the guards have seen it. They send out one of the orderlies, going to go and check if he's dead. The wee orderly come out and go, I think he's dead. Half an hour later, they'll maybe get a medic comes in and says, he's definitely dead. And then maybe an hour or two later, somebody will drag the body away, and you're sitting there playing chess. So that's just like, you know what I mean? That's how it makes you inhuman. You know what I mean? You don't go out and do things yourself.
And that was like on a regular occurrence, things like that.
Yeah, because they used to put nets up, right? These nets were like table tennis nets. You know what I mean? If you put them on somebody off the 3rd floor, I wasn't stopping them, you know what I mean? Or people would just, there was not, at that time, there wasn't, in Spain, I believe now you've got all the different gangs, Albanians, Russians, At that point, there wasn't that sort of thing. There wasn't organised gangs like you see in the States with the White Brotherhood and the black gangs and the Puerto Ricans, whatever. Spain never had that. It was like if you had 3 or 4 mates, you were to be reckoned with. You know what I mean? If you had 3 or 4 good guys, it was like that. It wasn't like 20 people or 100 people. So there'd always be something going on between somebody's wanting, they've got that, we want that, they've got that, we want that, and it was just they've got the guards with the machine guns in the towers. They don't give a hell, you know what I mean? As far as they're concerned, remember, they've been brought up for 20, 30 years working under Franco, when they were allowed to just fire the machine guns if they were bored, you know what I mean? So it wasn't nice, I mean, obviously Spain has a lot of improvement, but this is late 80s, early 90s, and I'm not making this up to sound like I'm like, the Birdman of Alcatraz. I'm just telling my truth, you know what I mean? I can't make up things, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, hopefully trying to explain to kids, like when you see all this, the drug running and the fast cars and the airplanes, yeah, that's fine, but it doesn't end well. They're either dead, because it doesn't end with a happy ending. You don't see like, yeah, I'm a billionaire living on my island. I used to be a drug trafficker. No, they're all dead or they're in jail. Do you know what I mean? It's not a wise career move. But I didn't realise that at the time. You know what I mean? I was just young and stupid and naive.
Allan, how did the obviously when you went in there as a British person, how were all the Spanish towards you? Were they sort of nasty towards you just because you're British, or do they sort of accept you?
At that point, I was the only Brit in Murcia, because Murcia now is like, Murcia is where I was living recently by a strange coincidence, and that's now like a 5-star resort. In the 1980s, Murcia was this farmland in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean? It wasn't a tourist resort. So you had Malaga, where Marbella and all that, with the south of Spain. You had Benidorm, then you had Barcelona, where the holiday resorts were. So the only reason I was there was because we get stopped, and that was a complete scandal because, finding all the drugs, that was headline news, that was really big for them. And the majority of people, it was quite not an easy intro, but the majority of people in Murcia prison were low level. You know what I mean? Because they're caught stealing tomatoes or something like that, or murderers or whatever. There was a few Colombians in there, and we ended up looking after them, but they were there for their own safety because they were Cali cartel and they couldn't be in the Madrid prison because by that time the Medellin cartel started having a few bodies in there, and they get moved down there because they didn't want, civil war breaking out, you know what I mean? But there was, at any given time, maybe half a dozen Europeans. There was a Belgian and Dutch guy, they were drivers, they get caught with a couple of lorries. There was Joel, my French mate, and his 2 drivers. There was a guy in for a bit of coke, an American guy, he worked in the shop, but we never got to speak to him. He was the only person I spoke English to. I think that's where I get addicted to coffee. Because the only time I could speak English was going up and buying a coffee, but he was at the end of his sentence, and the Spaniards that were in, we just didn't, the sort of elitism, any of the foreigners stuck together because you were all there for drugs trafficking, really, you know what I mean? Whereas the other ones, they were, in there and they would grass their mother up and they were all junkies and all that, you know what I mean? Whereas if I'd been caught, like, say, in Malaga at that time, there's hundreds of British down there, or if I'd get caught at Alicante, a few miles further up the road, I would have been all right because there'd been hundreds of folk in Alicante that spoke English. But Murcia just was in the back arse of nowhere. But it was quite good because no prison's good, but it was a kind of more gentle introduction. Although it was rough, it was nothing like Carabanchel. If I'd been into Carabanchel day one, that would have killed me because there was about less than 1,000 people in Murcia. You know what I mean? And it seemed because people go, "How did you cope?" Well, I didn't really have any choice. It wasn't like I could put my hand up and say, "I don't like this. I want to go home." You know what I mean? People say, "Oh, you did that and you did that." Well, I'd never seen kids nowadays, they're that used to seeing all these crime documentaries and prison things and all that. I'm 61. We had BBC One, BBC Two, and Channel 4 had just come in. The only police things I seen were like Dixon, a dot green in the bill. The only prison things I had seen was the Birdman of Alcatraz with Burt Lancaster and Midnight Express with Alan Parker had come out, right?
I just you touching on that, Alan.
He's about who was this and who was that, you know what I mean?
You mentioning the Midnight Express, the prison in Turkey. That's what I picture in my head as sort of the Spanish prison being like.
Yeah.
Is that similar? Or
and certain things worse as well, you know what I mean? Because the guards had been brought up with... Franco died at the end of the 70s. So it's not like they changed all the prison system in a few years. So they've got guys that are in the 60s that for 55 years of their life, they've been... Franco was just like Hitler, you know what I mean? So they've been working for the Gestapo for 55 years. And they're not changing their ways, you know what I mean? So they've been brought up that they can just, you know what I mean, give you a slap and all that, you know, whatever. And it was just commonplace, you know what I mean? And it would have been a lot more brutal 10 years before me, you know what I mean? And it's just that, you know what I mean? There's no comparison because, like, your brain deals with things by trying to rationalise them. No, if you're in a car crash, your brain forgets the minute your head hits the dashboard or something, or you through the window. You remember it 5 minutes later. I don't remember the times how it felt that, you know, I was locked up and all the crap in the batterns. I remember the funny stuff because your brain can deal with that. But, you know, there was times that, you know, you were it's not where you wanted to be. You know what I mean? I'm not glamorising that. And you forget that for times you were sick and puking up because your stomach couldn't take the food that they were giving you. You know what I mean? It was that bad. You know what I mean? The batterings and all that, you know. Later on in life, when I came back after the prison, I fractured my skull, right? And I had to go and get x-rays. And I'm in the hospital, and I'd had a seizure, so they wanted to do a full body, you know, the MRI and the x-ray. And the radiologist is like, Jesus Christ, you're like a chessboard. And I'm like, what do you mean? You know how the bits that are broken come up darker? And it was just black, white, black, white, black, white. You know, it's like every rib and everything, you know, but never get any treatment for it, you know what I mean? That was just like, you know what I mean? Just like, you just...
Yeah, I suppose in them situations, I suppose you just have to get on with it, don't you? You've got no choice.
Got no choice. And it's not like I was any better or any worse than anybody else. There was plenty of other people that were in the same boat, you know what I mean? Because you can't turn around and say, oh, well, they're getting, you know, 5-star food at that table and we've got everybody the same, you know what I mean? And luckily, like the French guy in that, and obviously very quickly, we established, you know, a sort of, no go into it because you're not in putting people in not naming things you did and all that, you know what I mean? But we quite had our own sort of like network in the prison, you know what I mean? And we were able to get what we wanted and things like that, you know, like when some of the guys come down, they would pay for, you know, if it was an older, like we had the Cali Cartel accountants in with us. And obviously these guys are 60-year-old, you know, like, no, they're going to get brutalised, you know, no matter where they go. So I ended up having one of them in my cell and all that, you know, to look after them. I've never ate so well in my life. This guy had so much pull. I'm getting like fresh ham and cheese and salad. No, I've never seen salad in 20 years. I'm talking shite. In 3 years, you know what I mean? He's got wine in that. He's got cutlery and all that. And I'm like that because he's bribing the top guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We used to go up, I'd never go up to my cell early because I wanted to stay out as much as possible. But you go up at 8 o'clock, we'd have like guys for other galleries, we'd have the guards coming into your cell because this guy would have that, you know, the Spanish ham, that ham in Serrano, the raw ham stuff. I never liked it. But this stuff is really expensive. You'd have that, the best cheeses and, you know, tins of caviar, and I kid you not. And they're all sitting there with a lump of bread and all that. It's guards as well, some of them would bring in whiskey and all that, the guards would bring in, and we're like, it was like, you know what I mean? You can laugh about that, but at 9 o'clock, the doors still get shut. You know what I mean? And you're not going anywhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still, you know what I mean? You can laugh about having great food, but that was for a period of a few weeks, you know what I mean? Because he was only down there till he got trialled, and, the embassy were swapping him with somebody in Colombia or something like that, you know what I mean? But it's as though making out that's the way I ate all the time. No, I didn't. Most of the time, I was doing bread and water and porridge and fish heads and all sorts of stuff, you know what I mean?
Fish heads?
Yes, they would just make a soup. Basically, they wouldn't even wash the fish. It would be like whole fish, just in there with the guts and everything. A couple of raw onions, whatever, because Murcia was a agricultural area. So you could just stick in whatever was growing, raw turnips, cabbage, whatever, in there with the fish. And then the next time, it would be like, supposedly they say conejo, that's rabbit. And you're like, that's no rabbit. Rabbits are a bit, that's rat, you know what I mean?
Stop it. Alan, can I just ask you, did you ever suffer from like PTSD, like from trauma from it?
Looking back, probably, but just not actually admitted it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because recently I sort of taken a new attitude to life. This is the sort of what we try to promote. I'm not born again Christian or anything like that, but things got so bad because like my lifestyle and all that, I was just going in a bad spiral, and in the summer there, I just got totally clean, drink, drugs, the lot, and started trying to think about other people, do like mates, like what you're doing, helping people. I wouldn't have helped people before unless there was something in it for me. You know what I mean? I'd be like, no, what's in it for me? And I've had a few like humbling experiences, like recently when like I found out what other people had done to help me, like the guy in the recording studio, he's getting threatened, for not helping us up. The Spanish DJ guy that helped us, people. When I came back from Spain, I was like, I'm not going to glamorize it. I was in a really bad state with that white powder for Colombia. You know what I mean? I was ridiculous amounts. You know what I mean? And I had to get clean for that. There was a lot of people helped me, looked after me. You know what I mean? Sorted me out, and paying that forward. You know what I mean? Thinking, say to kids, no, that's not a good idea. Ends up in tears because a year or so ago, I had. What everybody goes, they say beyond your wildest dreams. I had the villa, glass cars, on that in Spain. 2 months ago, in this flat, I didn't have any electricity or gas because I'd had to come back because a couple of things went wrong in Spain. Different financial things happened. I wasn't doing anything illegal, but basically everything that I had, I lost and had to come back here. And sitting in a little flat in the outskirts of Glasgow, 1-bedroom flat after you've had the villa in Spain with the pool and all that and the cars, it's pretty, it's. And if anybody needs to go like, well, you did all this, well, look where it got me. You know what I mean? I was like going for crisis loans to get electricity and gas and all. Yeah. And before, I'd have been too embarrassed to say that. But if that puts something in your kid's mind, I'm quite happy to say, look, obviously, things have changed now. Things are looking a bit more promising. You know what I mean? I'm getting opportunities, that there's bands out there, right, that are really good locally. No doubt, if you go down to a local pub, there'll be a band on and they're really good that will never get the coverage that I've got. You know what I mean? And it's like, so if I can use that, obviously my ego, I've not lost completely my ego. I'm like, this is brilliant. But at the same time, if I can take a wee bit of time out and we're speaking to you and say, look, kids, you know what I mean? It's not really a good idea. That if you're going to do it, think what the consequences are, and if it helps somebody like you with the martial arts and all that, you know what I mean? Getting kids off the street. I mean, my uncle ran all the boxing gyms and all that in Barhead. He was the ABA champion, all my cousins. I was the only one that wasn't boxing because I was sent to uni. I was supposedly the bright one. Look at what happened to the bright one. You know what I mean? The thing was, we were talking about about the martial arts and all. The crazy things that happened to me in my life. I came back from Spain in '92, and like a lot of the people that I was with in Marbella, and that they always used to, do different things because there wasn't like mixed martial arts in that back in the 80s. You know what I mean? A lot of people, there was a lot of bodyguards, and they were doing like the Krav Maga and all, the Israeli thing and all that. And I decided to get fit and all that when I came back from Spain. And goes down and joins the local gym, and they've got like martial arts classes. And I told you, you couldn't make it up. I started training martial arts, and the guy that's training me is the second top guy in the world at that point, who has now become the top guy in the world, Master Rikai Ha. And Indy doesn't believe it. Google or Wikipedia, Master Rikai Ha lived in Barhead, the little town where I was. That's where he retired to, and his son Andrew, who's now 8 Dan or something like that, master himself. He was in his 20s, or that. I was only 28. And that was the guy that was giving us the classes. You know what I mean? You couldn't make that up. You know what I mean? People go, you were taught by, you know what I mean? That's like saying you were taught by Bruce Lee. Look, I can't say these things because they had the UK Open for Taekwondo in Barhead Sports Centre when I was doing it.
Alan, I just want to jump back a bit about the prison. Can I just ask you, what were the visits like, or did you even have any in
I personally never had a visit, because when I first seen the consulate when I was about 3 months into my sentence, and they were like, your mum and dad, or I was like, just beat it, you know any help. But if you were good in Spain, you could get a weekly visit through the glass, right? And, with your family. But at that visit, they could bring you food parcels, right? Which they didn't pass it over, that get handed over at the gate, and you'd get bread and cheese. Because that's how the Spaniards survived. They would get like ham and cheese brought in that would last the week, you know what I mean? Because the food was so bad. And then if you were good, you were condemned. You had, and condemned, you'd done like a third year sentence, whatever. You could have what they called a vis-a-vis once a month, which was like the face-to-face visit for, I think it's 2 hours, where you get your wife comes in. You could have your family, but most people wanted their wife to come in because you get, I never experienced it myself, but you got like, your conjugal visit or whatever. And so that's where a hell of a lot of the drugs were coming in, because you'd see a guy, and some of these guys, they didn't even have the brains. They go along to their monthly visit. They'd go in, get the drugs off their wife. 5 minutes later, they'd walk out. Within 10 minutes later, they're lying in a pool on the floor, out their face, and smack. And then they're saying somebody grassed them up. And you're like, you're an idiot. You don't even stay for the 2 hours. You just go, get the stuff off your wife, go back out, inject, fall down because you've taken that much, and then the guards lift you, and they're like, somebody must have grassed me up. And that was like the craziness. But I never had that. I did get out once the band took off. I got one permiso, because obviously when I'd been out to the recording studio, the theory is then you're going to come back. You know what I mean? You could have ran before. And I'd sort of conveniently forgotten about this because it's really embarrassing. I've got out, the guy that's the music guy, because I've got no family, he's like sponsored me. He said he'll be responsible for me and he'll meet me, and I get 6 days out and we're going to the recording studios. And that's all. The first day he's met me at the prison, took me to the town centre, and he's still got to do 2 hours work. He's left me at a bar. Now, I've not had I've had a few smuggled in drinks and things like that, but he's left me at this bar. And I could glamorise this, but the true story is actually funnier. This barmaid comes over and says, and I spoke fluent Spanish. And there's only our song playing on the radio. And I'm going like, that's me. And the girl, she's stunning, and I'm like, no, honestly, that's me. She's like, no way, that's that band out the jail. Because we were doing. And I'm like, look, there's the jail paperwork. And I'm thinking, she's like, oh, you want a drink? And I'm thinking, you do. She's stunning, you want a drink? And then she's downed it. She says, I know you because my boyfriend loves you. And this big, he's like Dolph Lundgren walks in, this big German guy, going, oh, shaking my hand and hugging me. I love your music. I'm a rock. I love rock music. And I'm like, oh no. But I ended up getting absolutely hammered. And I've left the bar where this guy's coming to pick me up. Now, he's going to get in serious trouble, you know, if I do a runner, you know, he's going to lose his business and everything. I've forgotten about this. You know how you have one drink and it's two and it's three. And part of the thing that you've got is whenever you get released, if you get released in Manchester and you lived in London, by 6 o'clock at night, you've got to report to the police station where you're going, you know what I mean, in a reasonable time. I've forgotten all about this, right? I'm meant to go to the Guardia Civil, the National Police, you know, in Cartagena. I'm getting pissed. And luckily, this guy remembered that because he'd obviously got mates that have been in the jail. He said, you know, meant to go and, like, Hummer. He said, aye. And I'm like, I'm pissed as a fart. And they literally made it. The police station is like 100 yards around the road. They've taken me and shown the papers. Now, you're not allowed to drink. You're not allowed to be out after curfew, you know, all this. The guards, again, I was very lucky. They were laughing because it's a Scotsman drunk, you know what I mean? It's not exactly breaking the mould. And they knew about the band because they've seen it in the papers and they think it's hilarious. So they've decided to be friendly, right? And give me a lift round because I've no idea where this guy stays. I've got his business card or it's on the paper. This is where I'm. They've only taken me around and for a laugh, they've put on the blues and twos. And I'm unconscious in the back seat or, you know, like, oh. This guy he's left me at 12 o'clock. He's come back at 2 o'clock. I'm nowhere to be seen. He's got his friends round and all that to meet me and all that. I'm on a promise with his wife's pal and all that. And it's 5 o'clock, it's 6 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock. This is at 9 o'clock at night. He's thinking he's going to jail. You know what I mean? And what happens is they've arrived with the blues and twos on. I don't know what I thought. You know what I mean? But like that's you know, craziness of it. You know what I mean?
Alan, can I just ask you, in the prisons? Obviously, when I've been in Spain, even in the apartments, you get cockroaches. I've seen snakes and all sorts. What was that like in there? Oh,
cockroaches and that everywhere, horrible. I just don't like them. No. You know what I mean? They were just. And you see people going about in their bare feet and all that, and I'm like that, and standing on that, I'm like, oh no, I'd rather fight a lion than stand on a cockroach. You know what I mean? That just, you know what I mean? Ants is the other one, right? Ants everywhere. You leave a crumb of bread out and they're up on the tables and that, and they're infestations and all that. You know what I mean? Oh, crazy. And
that must be hard to deal with when you're first in there and you're trying to sleep and you got like them crawling around. It must be.
Oh, it's horrible. And the thing is, as well, it's so humid, right? There's no aircon there in, like, it's 40 degrees and that. So what you do is you just throw the mop bucket, you know, with the dirty water on the floor, and then that, but it stinks like hell. You know what I mean? But it's better that than the heat. And you've got to tie your sheets. You know, you tie your sheets so tight that the mattress thing is bent like that, and then it gradually, you know, with your weight settles it out, because otherwise the sheets just stick to you because they were, you know, the horrible like flannelette thing, you know what I mean? Absolutely. And they don't get washed on a regular basis, right? And see, if you've got family, Spain's, the system, everything you want, they really humiliate you. You've got to do this form called an instancia for anything. I want a phone call. And you've got to say, like, Your Honour, could your humble slave please be granted the benefit of one phone call and I will be eternally grateful and kiss your ass. You got to do it like that or you don't get it. And that's like everything for your clothes and all that. No, and we had a lot of money in the jail. Like, it kept taking office because guys that were wanting stuff, you know, the gears, oh, I've got a new Nike tracksuit. I'd get it on for 2 days and the guys would go, wait a minute, where's your paperwork for that? Oh, no, back off again. They started, we were playing, we got paid for our first ever concert, 50 quid. And that was the only money I've ever made out of this whole story up to now. Never received a penny, got 50 quid the first one. And then the anti-liberty guys, the ones that were against us, they're not getting money. They should be, you know, breaking rocks in the hot sun, you know, no giving them money. So the next time round, they gave us a tracksuit. Now, all the other guys can get clothes and that. I've got a pair of jeans that's hanging off me. You know what I mean? So I've got this tracksuit, but they've only gone and got us the same tracksuits, right? These bright blue, shiny tracksuits, they were expensive tracksuits. They were like a lesser Kappa or something like that, and identical trainers. And I'm like, you can't wear yours. I'm wearing mine on Monday because you can wear yours on Tuesday, you can wear yours on Wednesday. Because if you imagine the five of us going on stage with the identical tracksuits, we'd have been like the Jackson Five or the Drifters or something like that. You know what I mean? Our credibility would have been, never mind the bad boys have been rock, we'd have been a boy band.
Did you ever have a dream before all the prison started of something that you'd want to do or wanted to achieve before you ended up in prison?
The music thing, but I always said, a lot of people have it, you know, we over, you know what I mean? I was a little fat kid in school, and yeah, so the minute people start paying attention to you, you know, you've got this ego, but at the same time, you've got low self-esteem, you know what I mean? Think, oh no, I can't be that good. So when I was involved in music and playing bands, when I started promoting the bands, we're always like, oh, they're better than us, you know, we're not that good, you know what I mean? Even though other people say, but you're really good, you know what I mean? I got the music side by promoting the bands and putting on, I was still involved. And then I was running club nights, so I was involved in the music. And the first time round, we genuinely thought we were going to be, I was told I'm going to the open prison, we'd recording contracts, we'd tours, we'd everything. And then that get taken away. So although I am really amazingly grateful about what's happened recently, I'm still going, you know what I mean? The last time I built all my heart into it, they stole it away. So it's like, keeping a wee bit of distance. This is great, you know, I appreciate everything, but if nothing comes of it, you know, well, so be it. But hopefully there are people liking the music and stuff like that. I mean, people keep, you know, playing it and stuff like that. Hopefully something will come out of it, because it would be nice, you know, just to go back and have a try to do something properly, you know, because I'm always like, people saying, I love the song, it sounds really good, and I'm like, instead of taking the compliment, I'm like, oh, it can't be that good because we recorded that live and we only wrote it the day before. And they go, no, but it's all right, it's good. But feeling the need to, or you can't, you're just saying that because you're my mate or something like that, you know what I mean? You can't take the credit. And hopefully the music thing would take off. There's loads of stuff that's no covered in this, you know what I mean? Crazy stuff that it's so far out there that I couldn't tell it, you know what I mean? Because until I met up with the guards and they've got paperwork and all that, like, I hadn't even thought about it till last year. I get deported at the end of my sentence, right? If I was going out for a career in music, how was I going to be deported? You know what I mean? But I'd never thought about it. I got out and I just left that completely behind me. I never looked back. It was sitting paperwork in my drawer in my mum's. And I've shown this paperwork. I went back to the UK for the first time in 4 years last summer. Come back with all this. We were just looking for photographs, but all this stuff's there. The deportation order was totally illegal. And this is like, honest to God, I can send you the paperwork because it sounds that crazy. I wasn't meant to get deported until 2 weeks before I left. And the head of Spain's Ministry for State Security, the Director General of like the equivalent of MI5 in Spain, has written to the head Chief Justice in Madrid, you know, the Court of Appeal, you know, the High Court, the Supreme Justice, the UK, whatever you call them. The head of MI5 has written to him saying that I am considered a threat to Spain's relations with foreign countries. I provide a clear and present danger to Spain's relations with, you know, other friendly nations, its impact in joining the EU. I am a threat to Spain's civilian population, and I should be deported for those reasons. I'm like, I'm a 28-year-old from Glasgow. You're getting me mixed up with somebody else. Yeah. But that's like, you know, I couldn't tell that before because people go, you just want to sell your story. There is the paperwork. You read it. You know what I mean?
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Alan, can I just ask you, have you got any words of advice for any youngsters that think it's sort of big and clever to get involved in the drug trade or you know, that type of life of crime. So any words of advice you can give them?
Look, back in my day, I'm not saying it was easy, but there wasn't the level of surveillance and things like that. You know, drug trafficking wasn't well established, and we still get caught. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You see all the glamour in that, and I remember people talking about, oh, you get looked after in the jail and all that. You know, look, the minute you're in the jail, nobody knows you. You know what I mean? You don't get your pension paid and your wages, and they go in and give your family a bung every week. That does not happen. You'd have no use to these people. Once you get out, you've got all the people contacting you again. Oh, do you want to do this? Only because you can do something for them. They're not trying to help you. And nowadays, it's even worse for any kids that's considering that. A couple of years ago, where I was staying, all the guys get done with these Encro phones, all the young kids. They thought they were high, you know, like, oh, they can't hack this. And you're going, look, of course they can. Anything's hackable. And there's hundreds of people, thousands of people in the UK now awaiting trial that thought they knew more, you know what I mean? Oh, they'd never hack this and hack that. And they thought they were, you know, because they know better. They're all awaiting trial. And, you know what I mean? The whole drugs thing, it's glamorized, you know what I mean? But ask the people in the jail if they're making any money out of it. They're not. Because somebody said to me once, a guy I know who's a very well-known criminal, and he's done like 30 odd years and stuff like that. And he went, although I made £1 million back in those days, if you divided that £1 million by 30 years, worked it into weeks, worked it into the hourly, I'd earned less than I would have got working in McDonald's for that time.
Yeah.
And if you think it that way, and I thought that was a really good, and that's somebody that's been on all these podcasts, I'm not going to name who it is, but somebody that's well respected, and he was like that, you know, because I was asking advice, how should I know glamorize it? And he's went, explain that. And I went, that's brilliant, you know what I mean? Just work out what your hourly rate is, even if you get £1 million and you do 20 years, work it out. Because it's not like if you're working at McDonald's, you can go out after your shift and go and do what you want. You're working 24/7 if you think it that way. And as well, it's the thing with the kids as well, you know what I mean? If you are on for not just kids, but MD, you know, adults as well. I was too stupid to learn until I was like 3 odd years into it, and the music saved me. I could have made my life a bit easier, and it's not. There's a difference between grassing people and, you know, being a trustee, you know, and a complete, you know, dog's body for the authorities. There's a difference between doing that and being sensible. If you're there and doing something like, I want to become a plumber, or I want to be an artist, or I want to, that's just looking after yourself. Plus, if you're not doing that, you're sitting in a cell 23 hours a day, I believe, in the UK. You're just wasting your time. You're actually making your own sentence worse. So if you can take up maybe writing or painting, or, you know what I mean, whatever it is, you know what I mean, get into sports, you know, come out healthier. Because I never experienced the stuff like seeing the British prisons with what's the drug they now in the prisons, the one that sends you a bit psychotic.
Oh, they use that spice stuff, don't they?
Yeah, they soak it and all that, you know what I mean? And it's just, they don't know what they're getting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's turning people, they're saying like they call them the walking dead and all that, they're walking about like zombies. You're not even getting a hit out of that. Because, I mean, I could understand people that, you know, I just want to numb the pain and, you know, but instead of doing that, if you're going to be there for 5 years or going to be there for 50 years, you make it as hard for yourself as you want. You know what I mean? Instead of looking at the walls for 5 hours, you could read a book for that 5 hours. You're only punishing yourself. The guards don't know you're reading a book. It's not as though you've said, like, oh, I'm doing what you tell me. You're doing it for yourself. You know what I mean? I think whether it's a Jack Reacher action book, or it's a philosophy book, or it's a book on teaching yourself, you know, sport or something, reading a book, you know, maybe you fancy getting guitar. I know they do guitar workshops or keyboards, or you want to take up a sport or get fit. You know what I mean? You get plenty of time on your hands. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you're actually the system then, because they're trying to get you to not conform and make it as difficult. But if you can get something that gives you a wee bit, not necessarily pleasure, but gets you out of your misery for a couple of hours, you know, in the gym or something, going for a workout. And I've never come out of a workout in my life feeling worse than when I'm in. Because anything that's been in my head before I've went into the gym or done any training, I forgot all the stuff that was big problems before, because you can't concentrate on your problems. You just come out, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? You know yourself, you young kids. There's all the knives going about and the knife crime and all that, you know what I mean? And that's just peer group pressure. You know what I mean? The kids, like the young kid I've seen, like training in your gym, you know what I mean? He doesn't need to carry a knife. You know what I mean?
Alex, I'll just ask you, is there anywhere people can reach out to you or follow you or find you anywhere if they wanted to get in contact with you?
We've got I've got a website, and the name of the band was Berlin 90, right? Berlin, as in the city, 90.com, berlin90.com. My name's up there, Allan McCarthy. If you Google that, it sounds very ego. I come up. If you just put allanmccarthy.com, that links up to the website. And on there, you can see Facebook. I'll be posting the link to this on it, all the interviews and stuff like that, because a lot of the stuff, and you listen to podcasts and people exaggerate things, you know what I mean? Because they're there to sell their new book. No, I'm not selling in. I've got nothing to sell. And when I say, like, my first story, like, went into 23 million newspapers, you're going, like, what is this fanny talking about? The links are there, the newspapers, you can still go online. There's 32 different newspapers in Spain that was in the same day centre pages. I was on the local radio station a week ago. I'm going on again on Friday. I get 1 million listeners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, you know what I mean? It's just, you know, the story. It's not like I'm anything fantastic, you know what I mean? But the story just seems a wee bit different from, you know the podcast. Who was the hardest guy in the door? Who was the baddest guy?
Yeah.
Who was this? You know what I mean? I don't need that. You know what I mean? Mine's just a wee bit different, and that's why I liked when I was looking at your channel. You've got the guys that are doing something positive as well. You know what I mean? It's not just who was the hardest guy ever, or, you know, who was the enforcer for this and all that. You know what I mean? You've got these sort of stories about the sport and, like, your own thing when you know, after the tragedy, your pal going on to win the world championship and all that. You know what I mean? That's, like, you know, the stuff that interests me, because there's always somebody harder, bigger, stronger, you know, dafter, crazier. You know, that means nothing, you know what I mean? What is the point of being the guy that get the biggest jail sentence ever? You know what I mean? I would rather know the guys that didn't get caught, because they were obviously smarter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
And, like, with your stuff, you know, that's inspiring for kids, you know what I mean? Taking up the sport, you know, the discipline for the martial arts and all that, you know, and then obviously it wasn't the best circumstances to get dropped in there last moment and then have to go, you know what I mean? That's great, you know what I mean? And if the kids can identify with that, because maybe they've, you know what I mean, they've lost somebody in their life and they feel like, you know, that's the easiest thing, you know what I mean? I'm no drinking and doing anything now. But the easiest thing, you have a pity party, poor me, I've just lost my pal or I've lost my ma. I'll go and get pissed, and what is that solved? 2 or 3 days down, you're just going to feel worse.
Yeah.
But if the same person go, no, I'm going to go down to the gym. And like I was saying, you go in the gym, you can't think about your problems if you're hitting that bag. You know what I mean? You're just out of yourself, and you come out, you've got the endorphins kicking, you get the natural feel-good factor. And by going to the gym every day at the same time, or going for an hour a day, whatever, you're giving yourself the self-discipline. You know what I mean? You don't want to go, but I don't want to let the other guys down. It teaches you values and stuff like that kind of we were brought up with. And a lot of the kids, you know, like, they've got no respect for anything these days. You know, there are some good kids out there. It's unfair to say they're all the same, but kids just think, you know, like, you know, they just watch telly all day, play with their games. They don't like go outside. They don't like
bloody PlayStation, don't they, innit?
Aye, that's it. You know, it's very hard for them, because it's just like, we spent all our day. I used to get punished by getting sent to my room. You know what I mean? Nowadays, a kid gets punished by saying you're not going up to your room. You're like, I wanted to be playing football or doing something daft in the street. Now you do that to a kid and they're like, oh, I'm outside, it's cold, it's wet. You know, remember you cut your knee, you fell in a tree.
It's gone crazy. The whole world's gone crazy.
Still pad and soap. Now it's intensive care and they need an antibiotic. You know, when you get a cut knee, you know what I mean? Jesus.
So, Alan, we're gonna finish with a bit of your own music. Can you just tell us a little bit about that song?
Yeah, this song is called Runaway. Now, this song was recorded in 1991 live in a Spanish prison. We are playing this live. I wrote the song the day before. This is the first time we've ever played it. And 30 years later, last year, when I came back from Spain, a good friend of mine, who's a BAFTA award-winning director, Ian Henderson, heard the song in the car, couldn't get it out of his head, and he's turned around one day and said, I'd love to make a video for that. Let's put it together. So you've got a song that was recorded 30 years ago in a Spanish prison with a video done like less than a year ago by a BAFTA award-winning director. It's called Runaway. The band's Berlin 90, and I hope you like it. Thanks, Lee.
I've been crazy too long, it's time to start. Find myself, find out where I'm going. Things have changed, now I finally see the light. Don't know what I've been hiding from. Don't know where I've been going wrong. All I know is it's time to pack my bags. When everything gets too much for me to stand, I just leave it all behind and head out for that promised land. And I just run, 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 run away. Run, 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 run away. Run, 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 run away tonight. Little girl, who are you waiting for? Just in your eyes, standing by the door. Romeo, he ain't coming round tonight. Mama's crying, how she drives you wild. Papa's yelling, you're only still a child. But you know, well, it's time to find a life. When everything gets too much, you got a choice. Listen to that voice inside your head that's telling